You're experiencing the Authentic Chaos podcast, an exploration into our inner selves and journeys of self-discovery. I'm your host, Vahagan Yernosian, recording from beautiful Siem Reap, Cambodia. And I'm joined here by a very special guest, Jason McIntosh.
Can I? Thank you. As you know, it's my honor to be here.
Yeah, and I'm grateful that you're here. Jason and I actually met on the tour that we've been doing of Thailand, Laos, Cambodia. We clicked. Good. And we're nearing the end of our journey.
We'll always go on.
We'll always go on. Well, because the world is maybe big, but it is also very small.
If not here, in the afterlife.
Exactly. So, Jason, would you like to tell the viewers a little bit about yourself?
Okay. So I'm Jason, and I'm from London. No, I kid. So I'm Jason McIntosh, J-Swan, if you will. Going on a journey that I needed, that I deserved, which was good. I'm from Australia, Kiama, if you will, if you know that, or Wollongong, which is it's there. But the start of it, I put up a front when I first met yous. I think it was day 2, and I like to put up a wall when I first meet people.
Yeah.
To kind of test them. But in the exact same time, it's like, why am I doing this? And now I'm finally letting go, and it's going to be good when I get home, because home's everywhere for me.
Yeah.
And I can be there for my friends. Got to be right there.
And I will say that Jason is one of those guys, if it's not immediately clear to you, the audience, that some would consider him eccentric, some would consider him odd, a bit of a goof. But there's like a beautiful authenticity about him. He describes himself as a peacock, and
mixed with a lion as well.
Yeah, and it's kind of true. But like a peacock, just because they have beautiful feathers doesn't make them a true bird.
Warriors.
Yeah. And so I want to let's talk about this journey. What inspired you to go on this journey? Either this trip or even the metaphorical journey you're referring to.
It was as I spoke to you about, all up here. So it's anxiety, right? And so I've got my mind, my soul, and my heart.
Yeah.
And normal people will have, what's normal? They'll have either, let's say, their mind working for them, so then they'll do that. But I have all 3 going at the one time, which is fun. And times got rough, and I just always did what I did.
Yeah.
And hello. Oh, sorry.
We're outside, and there are some friends going on.
I've been saying hello to all my friends and family here. But yeah, I kept pushing, and now the main thing is I'm ready to love and get what I want and deserve, which is I want to be a father, have either a daughter or a son, or why not a whole Viking army?
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to be, perfect. Like, your perfect might not be my perfect.
Yeah, I think so. There's a lot of beautiful things that you just said. So which would you? So we could talk about the mind, soul, body connection, or we could talk about the parenthood and the anxieties around it. Which would you? What do you think?
We'll go the parent one.
Okay.
If it gets too much, I'll just.
So I think you made some interesting points. I think a lot of us get, especially in our generation, we get so worried about being parents. We think that we're not perfect, so how could we bring another person into this world? And we know that our parents weren't perfect, and it caused us a lot of strain, lots of traumas. I'm actually reading a lot of some books on the traumas we get passed on from our parents and their parents. And there's a lot that happens and that affects us in ways that like we're just starting to understand, like in psychology. And I see a lot of sentiment in my friends of saying like, well, how could I be a parent when like I don't have my shit together? But like, so you mentioned like it may not be perfect, but it'll be your perfect.
Yeah.
What does your perfect look like in terms of parenthood?
For parenthood, well, as I would imagine myself as a father, and probably a lot of my friends, are very accepting of whatever I have as a wife, like as when I get a wife and kids, and they will be them, straight up. And if they struggle, I will be there, like my tattoos. So
Yeah, you may want to. Yeah, there we go.
so Willow, Sienna, and then Tara up there. But I'd like to imagine that Sienna, who took care of me when I was younger, she would help what I want.
Yeah.
And it's just, yeah, it's sometimes goes like that, even putting it into words, but it's a good feeling, you know?
Do you believe in like the power of manifestation?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. So I think like even just putting that energy out there to yourself, I think, yeah, you will find that source of energy, of emotional strength,
When
whatever
I
you
think
need.
of manifestation, it's coming up there, but it's also coming in there.
Yeah,
And
it's
like a
it's
lot.
that whole mind, body, soul connection you were
Yeah.
talking about, like, or mind, heart, soul. Was that it?
Yeah. I've got the heart,
Mm-hmm.
which is now my son right there,
Yeah,
and then the soul. It will probably be the moon.
yeah.
And I'm not getting a tattoo on my head. But say I would. It's going to be like a budgie. Just going like that, popping up and down. Yeah. They were scared that I was going to get like a face tattoo or something.
Really? Who was scared?
At my work.
Oh.
I'll do it. I swear. Damn it. Whenever I'm.
Yeah, exactly. Or in Siem Reap, as you will.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
So this whole that's a good segue to this mind soul heart connection. So I like how you talked about that, because I've talked about this with my own friends back at home, about how there's this view of consciousness as something separate from your mind, from your thoughts, and from your feelings. It's easy for us to get caught up in our thoughts and think that the things that we think are us, or the things that we feel are us. But really, we're not the things that we're thinking. We're not the things that we're feeling. We are the being that experiences those feelings. We're the being that thinks those thoughts. So it's like they're parts of us, but they aren't the whole us. And so I think it's cool that you see that like trifecta within yourself. And I want to understand more about, so did you always feel like that you had this mind, soul, heart connection?
It was probably about 6 years old when I started feeling it.
Really?
But like, it's very confusing growing up. I can't talk for everybody. I'm not everybody.
Yeah.
I wish I was.
But how was the experience for you? We can at least talk about our own experiences, and maybe someone will like connect with that.
So, what first happened? It wasn't the mind that came first.
Mm-hmm.
It was the heart. So you're doing stuff just kind of on an impulse, if you may.
Yeah.
That kind of scenario. And then the second came the mind. So then you have them two conflicting. And then soul last. I think it was about... It took me till 23 that I started to go. I'd always wanted the change, but I'm like, now I'm working on it, so it's been building up. And
Yeah.
yeah.
Do you always feel connected throughout those years, or were there periods where you felt less connected?
There's sometimes where, like, say I'm looking straight right now, I can't see out of my eyes. Like, it's just not there because it's all locked up.
Yeah.
Because I kind of heard a story, right, of a friend, and he had a friend, and she went to Alice Springs, I'm pretty sure, the big Uluru Rock or whatever, and she was in front of the giant rock, had a photo, and she did not remember it until she'd seen the photo, and she was not on anything. Like, I can lay off the piss and lay off everything and anything, not meditate, and sometimes it will just, can't. So I love it when people say, hey, look at that. Like, if you look, actually, let's say there's a pot plant right there.
Yeah, here, let me show it for the audience. It's a cute little potted plant. Here, I'm gonna put it here even.
Sometimes I'd need some people to point that out for me, and then you see it, right? I go, whoa, like, I'll get my camera out, right? Yeah. I'll do it right now. God damn it. That's you. I love it.
This is what I love about you, Jason.
Thank you.
You're very in your moment. Like, you are living this very unique existence, and you're living it to the fullest.
I used to think of it as, sporadic behavior?
Yeah.
Like that. But I can control it, so
and this is actually an excellent example of what I refer to as authentic chaos. Because to the outside and to, like, a lot of our fellow travelers, you seem very eccentric, very chaotic, very, like, unorganized. But I think there is a rhythm to you. There is an order. It's just that we don't see it because we don't see all the things that are going in your heart, your mind, and your soul. We're only seeing the things that you're putting outward. Through your dances, through your through your eccentric, through your behaviors that to
singing,
us, yeah, you might. I mean, you might start singing.
Sweet Caroline. We've
been singing a lot of Sweet Caroline.
Sweet Caroline.
But, like, the point is that, sorry to interrupt. But the point is that you have, there is. It's cool to see where you've gone in this journey, and, like, but not many people get to hear about where the journey started.
Yeah.
And, like, so even you talking about how when you were young the heart came first, and when I heard that, I was reflecting to myself, and I think I kind of felt the same way, because if you think about it, and this to you too, dear listeners. When we're growing up, when we're, like, being, like, the logic part centers of our mind, like the rational centers or whatever you want to consider it, those don't really develop until later on in life. The first things we really, like, that goes through our minds or through our souls or our hearts or whatever, is the feelings, the things that we feel, the sensations, the fears, the insecurities, the happiness, the joys, all these things, these matters of the heart. And that's why I think we're all so connected to that initially. But I think it's easy for us to get disconnected. I for sure, I was a very emotional kid growing up. I would cry. I would, like, feel things. My mom would always say, and my grandpa would always say that I was very wise. Like, I understood things that, like, a 5-year-old shouldn't have been able to understand. But, like, I kind of understood people on, like, maybe a deeper level than I should have at that age. But I feel like at some point I lost touch with that. And I think it was partly, like, how society was telling me to be raised, like, what I was taught was important, like, finding a good career, like, getting good grades, things like that. And so, like, definitely in my like, education years through, like, high school, then college, then grad school, I definitely felt disconnected from the things that made me feel human. And, like, I hear this, and I actually had, like, an episode on emotional maturity in men,
which I'll listen to.
And I highly encourage everyone to listen to. But,
not
like,
sponsored.
I think a huge problem with, like, how men are raised and how like our culture, especially Western patriarchal culture, like teaches men how to act is more like being logical, rational, not worrying about your emotions and not never dealing with your emotions. And I've had friends complain that their partners can't even pick the color of like a knife set. Like picking between like different shades of blue, for instance.
They should do my game then.
Yeah. Just pick randomly at that point. But like
point to the menu, bam, you got it.
Yeah, exactly.
Hopefully you don't
So
suffer.
that like that's an option, but that requires you trust yourself. You trust that no matter what you pick, you're going to have a lovely experience. But if you don't trust yourself, if you don't know yourself, how can you ever trust your like random judgment?
I'm lucky that I have friends that I trust, and sometimes they'll do it. Just ooh, bang.
Yeah.
What do I got? Chicken palmy. God bless. You know.
Yeah. And sometimes you oh sorry.
No. You first.
You know, sometimes you're not gonna be happy with your choice. Like I make this so like as we're traveling, I do this all the time. Where here, let me shift this a little bit so you're more in view. I'll do this all the time where I'll pick a random spot and I'll go eat there. And maybe I'll pick a random dish that seems good. It's not always going to be a success. I'll admit. Sometimes it falls flat on its face and I'm kind of disappointed, but I can't really be fully disappointed because I trusted myself. I took that risk. And I trust myself that, like, if I keep taking risks like that, I will find great things because I have found great things. And some of my most memorable memories are like the random things I found on my own just by happenstance, not expecting it at whatsoever.
Like my walks, right?
Yeah.
So
Jason loves to go on walks, even when they're even when they're unadvised in a city he doesn't know, without any reception. He loves his walks.
So if I walk with you, you're gonna get everything because walks are sacred to me. I will speak my mind, and I'd love it if you would speak your mind with me.
Yeah.
But if I'm going by myself, that's my time to just get there right.
Yeah. Feel your mind, heart, soul,
like
trifecta.
I did the walk to the club last night.
Yeah, and that was like about a 40-minute walk
and then back
in a city, in a capital city that he isn't familiar with, and with a language he doesn't know.
And I was like, I'm gonna do what I'm meant to do. So I go up to the lass that I fancy today, and I just talked.
Yeah.
Which was good.
And that's brave. Like so many people like see the lady that they like, the lass they like, the Sheila, if you will, and they say to themselves, oh, she doesn't want to talk to me, or like, oh, I'm gonna be a bother, a nuisance, or like creep. I've heard a lot of guys say like, how do you keep yourself from being creepy?
Just be yourself, right? And if you're ever thinking about it, right, here's my favorite, right? I don't do it anymore because I'm different, but I used to go going like this, right? And if they come over, I go, imagine what I could do with all the rest.
Alpha's bump that. That's pretty slick.
I'm here all week.
Funny. But like, but what do you do now? Like, what do you do with the lady you're fancying now?
Come in it with an open mind. I don't expect anything. You never do. You just go there, and my broken language right there all the time. So come open-hearted, all there, and if nothing happens, I tried, but I have that moment, and she has that moment, whether it's be bad or not. Yeah. And I think we can all tell that we're both smitten for each other. So, and I think we're gonna be connected here, you know.
Yeah.
Live rent-free in their heads, as they say.
Yeah.
So
And just as a reminder, make sure to keep the mic close to your face. I want to provide a good listening experience.
It's
to
all
everyone.
right. My muscles are getting there.
You're saying important things, and I want people to hear
I'll
them.
hold to then.
I know it's a little awkward, but
it's all right.
yeah, I think that's a good point, because like do you feel like you're feeling the connection between you, even though like you don't really know each other that well?
It's good as well, because she can't. Well, she does probably speaks better English than me. But I've found that if you talk to people with your hands and then with your eyes and also your feet to dance, that's a whole lot of dance. Everybody understands dancing.
Yeah.
It's international, and music as well.
Yeah.
So if I start going, what do you think? Da, 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 da,
yeah, exactly.
Feel it. almost went out there.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're hitting on some really good points that like I like to say that like I don't know the actual numbers, but like something like 80% of all communication is nonverbal. Before humans like could speak like verbally, we were still able to communicate as like a species, maybe even a subspecies before we became Homo sapien. We had to rely on like grunts and like motions and like eyebrows, facial expressions, smiles, eye contact, hands, hips.
That's how I talk sometimes.
Yeah. And sometimes that's the most universal way to talk. Like, you can make connections with people even if they speak completely different languages from you, just by looking at them, looking deep in their eyes. People say like the eyes are the windows to the soul.
It's like, I see you now.
Yeah, and I think it's and I think there's something to be said about it, because when you're like staring into someone's eyes, like I am yours right now.
Are you falling in love too?
I'm falling in love every
when
day.
In Rome. Hi, Steve. No. We love
We got some friends walking by.
Yeah, I like to.
So how do you feel like you think about your body language when you're trying to approach people or trying to make a connection?
The way I used to think it was creepy, but
why do you say that?
Because I was in my own head. So lost parts of my childhood which I deserved. So I used to be the biggest hugger and like singer and all that. And used to intimate art and all that, right?
Yeah.
And it's really coming back. Like I've probably hugged you how many times?
Countless. And you've been singing constantly.
Yeah. And today, like the puke bag on the plane.
Yeah.
I ripped it up, and then I started drawing on it and writing. So I started off writing.
Oh yeah, you mentioned you started drawing again.
It was good. Like
I can show it later.
Okay.
Maybe I can do some editing magic to like post it in. Maybe around here.
Mind freak.
So, dear editing Vahagan, include picture here.
You're doing a good job. Nice.
And you know what? You're doing a good job too, audience. You're listening. Hope you're absorbing things, and take care of yourself.
Hope you're taking a deep breath.
Take a deep breath. We actually bonded initially over meditation and breathing, which we can talk about in a bit. But I want to conclude these these reflections on like approaching people, like making these connections in a way that is safe for both you and for them. So, okay, so we talked about how it was creepy. How did you, and how we're talking about how you've opened up and are starting to do things that you did before and kind of lost. What do you think has helped you regain some of that dance and song?
It's a hunger to want to learn again, and learning for me is you will get old when you stop learning. And I do want to get old one day, but
we will all get old one day.
As death is inevitable.
Yeah.
But I embrace it. But yeah, so I had that hunger, and again, it was like the tide right there, like nice twist as well. I was like, oh, thanks, Daddy, kind of scenario.
Yeah.
But now it's slowly, you know. But right now, like even talking, it's a bit, but it don't get to stop me. I'm gonna go up to that hotel room and I'm gonna dance. I'm thinking, yeah. I'm
So
gonna
do you
go
mean
Ed
do you mean
Sheeran.
you've got an urge to dance now? Well, who knows? Maybe we could show off some of your moves.
Maybe some editing magic. Dance. Oh, all they need is to be eating some food, and they have dinner and a show.
Exactly.
Oh God, I'm happy for you.
And you know, I know you love your walks, your walkies, as you call them.
Walkies.
And you know, maybe someday I'll have the camera equipment to do like a walk and talk. You know?
Oh yeah,
I think that would be great
I'll
because
definitely watch that episode.
I know that you're very I know that you are very like motion and dynamic.
Yeah.
You're very dynamic, and like I think it's very obvious even for our listeners and our watchers especially that like you have this dynamicity to you. You're like you're constantly moving. So I definitely have seen how like walking is an important part of you. It's like a meditation for you, and it's a beautiful thing because like the Buddhists like also believe that like, you know, anything can be a meditation. You do it because you enjoy it, and the point is just being present. I think Elle had this saying that she wanted tattooed called "Be Here Now."
That one stuck with me as well.
Yeah.
Kind of intimidated by her at first because I'd seen past people in her, not bad people, absolutely wonderful people, but I was like, who are you? Not attracted to her, attracted to her as a friend.
Yeah.
You can, but yeah, it's good as well because I'm not even looking down there. Well, now I am because goddamn, you got that game tray. But I'm looking right there.
Yeah.
Back again, I see you. It's fun. It's fun to do that. Like
so like you've been meeting lots of new people on this trip. Is this something you've been doing with everyone?
yes, but I was ignoring it in my own head as well.
Like how do you mean?
It's kind of so. What example do I have? I was.
And we can use like fake names if you want.
I was out with not a cop, and not a cop number 2, right?
Yeah.
And I just went for my walkies, and they found me probably about 1:30 talking to, I think it was like this Asian couple, like, and I can't remember the game. It's probably why I nailed the game. I totally nailed this game, right? So the game that goes do 1, do 2, do 3, and then that one gets hard. But yeah, like I couldn't remember that until recently. Like it's probably
What do you think jogged that memory? Because I do remember what you're talking about. It was at that bar in Long Prabang, Laos.
Yeah, so the 2 guys, I totally know their names. Didn't forget them. Didn't forget any of their names there. They I accidentally kicked their chair because I'm a peacock, and then I went over to apologise, and then they were like, "Oh, you drink." I probably had to say at this towers. They were like feeding me the alcohol and giving me cigarettes and all that, and it was like, where does this feel familiar? And yeah, it just come back. By the way, they were going, our friend fancies you. And she's like, I'm like, sup? And she's like, very, very
I mean,
lovely
you're
people.
a good-looking man. You're this exotic Australian Viking.
Yeah, mate. Yeah. Well, my ancestors are Irish and Scottish, so and Dutch.
Yeah. So you said that it felt familiar. Can you explain a little bit more? Like, what was the familiarity there?
Actually, we've got it right now. The wind, soft wind.
Yeah, you can.
And
If you're
butterflies.
for our watchers, you can actually kind of see it. The plant in front of us and the plants behind us are rustling a bit.
And it's kind of like a good loss. Like, I enjoy being
Yeah.
lost because you'll eventually be found.
Yeah, some say that if you like aren't really seeking something, you're never lost. 'Cause if you're just wandering.
It's like that hike where I just practically ran up the mountain. First start, by the way, 20 minutes extra.
He did. Everyone doubted him. He was in like skin tight jeans and like a button down.
And skid type as well.
Yeah. All right, sit down. We don't need to put it on the show yet.
Oh,
Like
God.
that kind of show. That's
What's up?
that's for authentic chaos after dark.
Okay.
But like people were like doubting you, and they're like, "Oh, you're just being crazy. You're not prepared for this." And it was a very vertical hike, and he just flew up that mountain.
Yeah.
And you said you don't even hike that much.
That was my first hike.
Yeah, so that's like even more impressive.
And I forgot to take the water up there. So when I got down, I got the Chang about that big. It was tasted
Chang
like freedom.
is a pretty good beer.
And I got
pretty good
water.
Thai
Was
beer.
throwing it around.
Yeah.
I think Steve took some. Good boy. Man, he's a man. We're all men. Boy. Yeah, that was really good.
So this moment kind of feels familiar to that hike.
Yeah, it's another way of describing it is what I'm doing right now. And most men, we know what's up. You know, some people like their chin wags, but that it's nice and soothing, gentle.
Do you mean that like the way you're brushing your hair right
Yeah.
now? Okay.
You know, watch my eyes go slow.
So do you feel like is it that one of your self-soothing things?
Yeah, and then it becomes the wave.
That's actually an interesting thing. So like I was chatting with one of my friends in one of our like group chats, and she had mentioned how she is kind of on a journey right now to re-find the self-soothing things that she would do as a kid now that she's in her 30s. Like being able to rely less on herself to soothe, or more on herself to soothe herself, rely less on other people as like a source of calm.
Well, sometimes it just takes a simple, humble.
It's taking a deep breath if you can't hear.
I feel it. I feel it. Dan feels it. Sup?
All right.
Respectful. Sorry.
More folks are going on. Self-soothing is really good, and like you can tell from his hair. His hair was perfectly straight when we first met him a couple weeks ago. So you've been clearly doing a lot of self-soothing on this trip. Has it been helpful now that since you've been in these foreign lands?
I'm ready to go back to more foreign lands. Even going home will be a foreign land, which will be fun. Back again.
What do you mean by that?
Because being lost is, you know, who I am, and that's not a bad thing, because I will always be found, whether it's me finding myself or some people finding me, because I'll learn through them. Love it to death, live it.
What's an example of when you found yourself?
Most recently, that walk I did barefoot, and so I did it because I wanted to feel right there,
Like feel the earth underneath you.
Yeah. And I'm walking along. My feet are bloody blistered right now, so
Yeah.
and it was worth it. Kept on walking and just wanted to sweat, but I got back and they're like, "You're not sweating," but it felt warm there.
Yeah.
And
Were you properly hydrated? Because that might have also been dehydration.
I actually got I started drinking a bottle of water because people were looking at me like that, like yeah.
If you probably notice, audience, I'm sweating a lot because I like drinking a lot of water. It is very hot here.
I drink a lot of water. We call it wobbly pops.
Drink your water, people. It is very important. Water is life. But
be great and hydrate.
Please continue on your. So this walk was very grounding for you.
Yeah. So as it started getting to there was prickly parts of the road, like the rocks, going in, but up there I was going, what are you doing? You should give up. And then there was the other side going, you're doing good. You're going there. You're doing this for you. You want this. And I just kept going. And I did it back. And then it made me go, cheese and rice, man. I get to go back and tell them. I think I bought a bracelet on that day.
Mm-hmm.
Probably did. Oh no, it's a new shirt. Pineapple shirt.
So you found something that you liked.
Yeah, and I let it gravitate towards
you
it as well.
found things that maybe you weren't expecting to find.
I feel like I've been rewarded as well. Like, even if the reward is what you perceive as bad, I think it's good. Like
what's an example of what someone would perceive as bad but you think is good?
Clogging the toilet more than 5 times last night.
Oh.
Worth it.
Bummer. We've
right.
all been there.
Everybody was like, what are you eating?
I mean, to be fair, some of these Cambodian toilets are not as strong as the Australian ones.
We're built different. Yeah. It's like how I can drink as well. Still haven't gotten a hangover at the age of 29, but
yeah.
I'm ready.
Well, that's magical. That's
my superpower.
That's definitely a superpower.
It's good. Yeah.
You know, so I actually have a poop related story too that turned into from like a moment of shame to a moment of like great like learning.
I am ready for this.
So I had done some mushrooms, as all great stories begin, and I had to go. I had to relieve myself before like it really started to hit me. And I'm sitting in this toilet. It was in this park, and it was like basically a less clean porta potty. Like they don't clean it very often. It stunk. It was like it smelled like someone died in there. And there were flies. The flies were loud and they were swarming me. And I was just sitting there and I'm like, I just want to get it over with. I need to get out of this space. But then like I thought to myself, what am I worried about? What am I ashamed about?
Did it kind of feel like you were being pushed? You're just going.
Not so much pushed. I would say I was like lifted.
That's what and falling isn't bad, but sometimes I like that. That's super.
It's interesting. Because you described it as falling, and I described it as more of like I was rising. Because like I started to take a deep breath, and I thought to myself, why am I worried? All animals poop. Mm-hmm. Like there's nothing shameful about it.
But
there's nothing gross about it. We're all animals.
That's why I get along with the doggies.
And it's true, you do. They love you. But like, so then I started to think, the flies aren't swarming me. They're swarming the poop. They're not attacking me. I'm an invader in their home. And then the sounds dissipated. The flies became quiet. The smells started to go away and were less harsh. I changed my reality in that very moment by just by changing my perspective of what was going on. I went in there being defensive, thinking that I didn't want to go through this experience. This was not an experience I wanted. And I've heard so many people tell me that the worst experiences are the ones on the bathroom. No one ever tells you, oh man, I took one of the best dumps last night. And it felt like I saw God. But like people will say like, oh, I had stomach problems.
Yeah, followed by a
yeah, exactly. And no one talks about these things that everyone does in like a positive light. But I started to see it in at least maybe not a positive light, but a neutral light. And even that changed it from a potentially a bad experience to a lesson in how to change your perspective.
I love those lessons.
Yeah.
Nice.
And it's not a lesson that like I ever intended on having. Believe me, if you had told me like days before that I'd be learning important life lessons in a porta potty, I'd tell you, like, get out of here. Like, what are you talking about? So I think there's the lesson here for you, the listener, and maybe you agree, or maybe you think there's a different lesson. But the lesson is really that the experiences that we have, the moments that we have, aren't positive or negative. Positive and negative are words that the ego puts on us to, like, provide judgment, make us judge things. And I talked about this a lot with Dan and a little bit with Elle in our last episodes, that when people travel especially, they think that the big highlights are going to be the most magical experiences. The Eiffel Tower, the pyramids of Giza, the Colosseum of Rome. But really, the most magical experiences are the experiences I never expected. The quiet dinner on, like, a small Parisian alley, or like a Roman alley. The finding a hidden Armenian monastery in Venice, or like,
how about the temple we went to yesterday?
Or the temple that we went to, yeah.
Cool. And watching, like, the domestic that was going out the front, the hands.
What was the domestic? Sorry.
The two Sheilas just, like, arguing. They were literally arguing.
Oh yeah,
It was very entertaining.
Yeah. So for the context, yesterday we got into Phnom Penh.
Yeah.
And we kind of had a free day, so a couple of us were like, "Oh, there's this cool Buddha park."
Yeah, but I was gonna go drinking, but then I was like,
"Yeah,
oh."
Yeah, I think most of us were probably thinking, like, oh, I was gonna hang out by the pool,
Yeah.
you were gonna go drinking, but, like, we saw this, and, like, I think there were 5 of us all together.
Yeah, so
none of us wanted to make the move on our own, but, like, when I saw it, and when I was like, okay, like, you know what, let's do it. And, like, then more people started to say, let's do it. And then we did it, and it was like a magical journey. Just 5 of us out of a group of 25, only 5 of us went, and, like, it was not like, yeah, we didn't know what we were gonna find.
It's cool with the group we have as well, that we're sharing it all amongst each other.
Yeah.
Not everything. I'm everything. I'm sharing.
And you can never share the experiences, because these experiences sometimes you have to make the intention to be there.
Yeah, try and make them understand. Like my photos. Yeah. Sometimes I'll just go like that with the camera, so it will just be.
Yeah, I did notice that you have a penchant for doing very non-traditional angles. Like, usually most people will do landscape or portrait.
But it's beautiful to me, and you'll see it, like, becomes beautiful to everybody else. Like,
yeah,
you can tell if I was drunk, or, like, how much energy I had.
Oh, like, that's a really good point. It, like, kind of does show a little bit about your state in the moment of taking the photo. Because, like, yeah, we think a lot about the subject of the photo, but not about the photographer.
Yes, yeah.
And, you know, art is, like, a big part of art is the creator of that
baby.
art. And you're an artist.
Yeah.
It is undeniable that you are an artist.
Our chefs are artists.
Yeah, you're a chef. That was another thing we bonded over food.
The Salt Bay, God bless that one.
What?
Salt Bay?
Oh, Salt Bay.
Yeah. All the time. Taste my sweat on your steak. You won't regret it.
Have you been at any of his restaurants?
No.
Yeah, me neither.
Apparently he's not so good, but
I've heard he was a bit of a jerk.
I'd probably enjoy it just for the experience. Yeah. I'd brag about it.
but, like, okay, so that's an excellent. Actually, Salt Bay is a really good example of how we were talking about how, like,
letting your ego get in the way.
Big events, right? The big events, and letting your ego get in the way. And I think a lot of people love to go to these famous chef restaurants, not because the food is going to be the best food they'll ever have in their life, but because they want to say, "Oh, I went to their restaurant." They want it for the Instagram. They want to take that photo, the video of their steak being seasoned in the most inefficient way possible.
Well, one of the best restaurants I've ever been to, and don't at me because I love him, Jamie Oliver. And most people are like, oh shit, they want Gordon Ramsay and Marco Pierre. He's my favourite chef, by the way. But I went there, and that's when I started enforcing the circle. And I was
What's the circle?
So when I'm going on the menu,
right. When you pick something at random.
Bang.
Yeah,
it's a very kid thing, unless you're a grown man like me. Then you'll end up doing it.
Yeah. Do you think if you had kids, you'd enforce the circle technique for picking food?
Yeah, enforce a nice... Do it, son.
You're going to have something random and you're going to like it.
I'll start skipping around the table for them and be like, what do you want? You want some bolognese? Hey.
Maybe do them a favor and like cut out and like void out the items that they're allergic to.
Yeah. I'm not going to murder them yet. Yeah, no, it'll be nice. And then... I'll learn from them. It'll be nice, very nice.
From your children?
Yeah.
I think that's a beautiful sentiment. Like, it's a simple thing to say that you'll learn from them, but it shows like a respect you have toward the children you don't even have yet.
Yeah.
And like I've seen like so many people treat children like an extension of themselves and thus like part of their property.
Well, I always believed that I'm going to have children, but my mum, she was like, no, you're not you got to grow alone. Really? And I was like,
that's so cruel for your own mother to say that.
Yeah, but it's an experience. Like, I understand that most people will look at that and go, shit, that's rough. And you're only human. You can show that emotion, and I'll accept it. But I'll do it with a smile, like, because I'm happy about my past, even the really, really bad points.
Yeah.
That's probably where we all learn. Well, I hope where everybody learns.
Yeah.
When, that feels better. Yeah, when you're just on the floor and, I don't know, I probably cried 2 times on this trip, and it's felt really good. Last night was one of them, walking back, and I was so happy. It was like, I had a tuk-tuk driver come up, and he's like, are you okay? And I'm like, it's all good, man. But
I've cried a couple times too, both tears of joy and tears of... Okay, sorry for that little jump, folks. It got a little loud. A motorcycle was parking like literally feet from us, so... But before that, we were chatting about like how there have been moments on this trip that have brought us to tears, and it's kind of rare for men to cry in this society, unfortunately. What were some of these moments that like brought you to tears?
I remember the second one, which was last night. So
we can just talk about the most recent ones.
It was the understanding of what I'm going to do today, and I've done it, and I'm so proud of myself, which it's still kind of confusing to say that, but you'll see that I'm growing stronger, which is awesome.
Yeah.
And kind of accepting other people's happiness for me, which I kind of thought, no, they're not. Like, they're putting a mask on, even though the other part of me was saying, no, you bloody idiot. They're proud of you.
Yeah. And we are proud of you. I'm so proud of you. And I wrote this in your book. That like, I think Jason has for sure made some of the biggest growths in this trip that I've seen of anyone else.
Thank you.
Because even now you're talking about how you're proud of yourself, and that is something that I would not have expected to hear from the Jason who started this trip.
Or the Jay Swan.
Or the Jay Swan. Or the Jason. But like, because I felt like coming into this, you harbored a lot of judgment for yourself, and you projected that onto others. But now I feel like you're letting your feathers show. That was actually
that was a turkey.
That was a turkey. I was gonna say that's a pretty good peacock. I don't know what a peacock sounds like.
No, a peacock, but I'd seen a turkey the other day.
Oh, okay.
So cool, wonderful.
Was that your first turkey that you saw?
No.
Okay.
I'd seen turkey in Nelson Bay when I was younger. Her name was Warface, and she was a character. If you went in there, walkies, she'd get ya.
Oh, I bet. Turkeys can be jerks.
Oh, it was amazing. I used to just walk around the cage like, what are you doing? It's fun.
Yeah. So going back to the moments of tears, I've definitely been moved to tears a few times on this trip. I think one of the most recent moment was at the killing fields in Phnom Penh, and just walking through it brought back imagery in me of the story of my great grandparents and and my people of these are people who survived the Armenian genocide, and they went through very similar experiences, like having to hide under floorboards to surviving through walking forced through forced expulsion into the desert, like death marches into the desert, and somehow surviving and making it to safety, and then eventually making it to the U.S. And these are moments that I've never experienced, but they're a part of my story. I'm reading a book on intergenerational trauma, and these are traumas that get passed on in ways that we don't understand. So we may find parts of us that we don't know where it's coming from, we don't know why it's there, but it hurts, and nothing we seem to do fixes it. And maybe you, dear listener, feel this way too, and I think it's something that a lot of us probably face, but not many of us know to even talk about. And it's something that I want to eventually have a conversation about, but I'll need to find someone who is comfortable having this conversation with me, because it is a very difficult subject. It uncovers the ghosts of not just your past, but your family's past. And there's a lot of implications behind that, usually. But anyway, I've been doing a lot of reflection of myself of what are these scars within me? These psychic scars that are maybe aren't holding me back, but kind of are. They're keeping me from being grounded in certain moments. They're taking me away from a moment. And for me, one of mine is a feeling like I don't belong. And I think it came to a head when I was in Armenia. It's in the US I don't look very American. In Armenia I don't look very Armenian. So then I say well, these are the two places that I'm most connected to. So where do I belong? And it kind of makes sense. Really, my family is we're Armenian, but Armenian from all over the place because of the genocide forced people to move away. And so I am inherently going to look different and be different from the people I associate with. But even is that's kind of a surface level, but even on a another level, when I'm connecting with people, I love connecting with people. I love flirting with people, men and women, because it's I find flirting as a fun way to get to know someone. It's a playful interaction to get a real view of someone's soul, someone's heart.
You get to know them. That's always good, because what did it for me was just looking at their eyes. Yeah. The eyes.
Yeah, the eyes.
Piercing, and everybody else is saying it on the trip. Nobody said a bad thing about you, which is fucking awesome, because you deserve everything.
Thank you, my man. Thank you.
Yeah. And then I started dancing with you, and then everybody else, they're coming up and dancing as well. They wanted to. You got Angie on the dance floor.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was refusing, but you could see in her eyes that she wanted to.
Yeah.
Yeah. it's like Dale who says that he can't dance. Yeah, you can.
Yeah.
Art is subjective, and dancing is art. What you may not say is not dancing is fucking dancing to me.
And I was a person that, just like Dale, I didn't know how to dance. I felt like I couldn't dance.
I refused to.
And for me, it's interesting because, like, I grew up with a lot of dance. Like, Armenian culture and dance are very strongly connected. Like, music is a big part of our culture and dancing is a big part of our culture. But I guess for various reasons, I closed myself out from that. I closed my heart to it. And it wasn't until I started this journey of understanding myself, of understanding my authentic chaos, that I found that music didn't just sound different to me, it felt different. I can now feel music in my bones, and it makes me want to dance. Dancing, people wonder why I always have energy to dance, and it's because it just feels natural to me. It's as natural as walking or sitting. Like, when I hear music, I just feel like moving to it even now, right? Just moving those shoulders, moving the hands. Like, it's just, it feels good to flow. It
Kinda
feels
like,
natural.
My gratitude. You remember the...
Yes. Do you want to explain, like, your gratitude?
So when I wake up in the morning and have a shower, right, as soon as the water hits the back of my neck, I say 3 things I'm grateful for. So my example this morning was, I am grateful that I'm here. I am grateful that I get the chance to love all these friends and family that I've made. And I am thankful that, goddamn, the beer is going to taste good. And I can just do that as soon as it does. But if you practice it, you won't even need to have that in your head. It just happens. It's amazing.
You know what? I'll do a little gratitude right now. I'm grateful that you accepted to, like, be on my podcast and chat, because I know it can be really intimidating, and I know I've talked to a lot of people about it, and, like, some people don't understand, some people don't get it.
I was kind of moseying around it. I was like, oh, I hope you fix it.
Yeah.
He's my first podcast as well.
And you were excited about it, and, like, Dale and the others were telling me how excited you were about it, and, like, that was awesome, because, like, I really, like, you know, I get in my own head sometimes, and I'm like, oh, people aren't going to be on my own podcast. When I first started mentioning I had a podcast to people were like, oh, whatever. Like,
I was
who
around
cares?
back. I was like, how does podcast work?
Yeah, right. And I think a lot of people
one.
don't understand, and, like, you know, it's chill. I'm an amateur, but I like this style. I just want to have conversations.
Nice.
And I think I'm good at having conversations, with or without them.
I know you're good at having conversations.
So
What?
I'm grateful for you. I'm grateful for you accepting. I'm grateful for, like, being here now. I'm grateful for the heat that I'm feeling, the sun, the sweat on my forehead, like the sounds of like the jungle and the birds. Like, we've got a little water feature in the background, and that's so lovely too. I'm thankful for the plants, and I'm grateful for just these experiences that I've been able to make with all of these, like, such beautiful, beautiful souls.
For being, or willing and able, you know?
Yeah.
I love that. When, say, most people, when they hear willing and able, they think it's sexual. And I don't blame you. You'll see me grin like, hey, how you going? Ever heard of Aussie Kiss? Fill in blanks later. But for me, and I hope for everybody else, you included, you'll take it home and you'll be like willing and able to get food, willing and able to take a chance, willing and able to accept yourself. Can be everything and anything. I am willing and able to have a bloody good shower after this, and goddamn, I smell good.
It's gonna
now,
feel
but
good.
It might be sweaty.
You know, I love that, willing and able, because, like, yeah, part of it is, there are two important parts, right? There's the able, like, you've got to be able to, we've got to have the ability to do it. We can't. I'm not going to be able to will myself to fly. Can't quite do that yet. Maybe one day. Maybe one day. But then the willing. And I think it's important to put willing at front because I think it's more important. And it's that intention. It is being intentional. I had a reflection the other day when we were in Luang Prabang, where we were trying to watch the sunset on a hill. And it's supposed to be a very beautiful sunset, but it was very smoky, so you couldn't see anything. And so I started to reflect. I was sitting down. A lot of people had left at that point, disappointed that there was no sunset, no beautiful colors. And as I was sitting down, I was reflecting and I was saying, what am I, just because I can't see it, does it mean that I'm not experiencing a sunset?
Feel it, yeah. If you close your eyes, like I close my eyes and I see the sun right there. Sometimes there, sometimes going like that. You can't see me.
Do
it's
we,
awesome.
yeah, like I can't feel the connection we have, or I can't see the connection we have, but I can feel it. Like we can't see love between two people, but we know it's there. So maybe our eyes are a little too greedy. Maybe we're too egocentric and focus more on being able to observe moments rather than just experiencing moments. And maybe that's that whole mind, heart, soul. Maybe we're experiencing too much with our minds and not enough with our hearts and our souls.
It's always good. Again.
Join us in a deep breath.
Like I taught a few of the boys and lassies how to take a deep breath, and I'm sure
Would you like to do a deep breath together?
Oh, hell yeah.
Okay, so here's a nice exercise that I've been learning. I've been learning a lot of breath work, and a nice, very simple one. We'll do 4 seconds in, hold for 4 seconds, 4 seconds out. And that's it. It's called like a square breathing because it's all equal lengths. And so yeah, let's do it just a little bit. Please join us in doing this, and I'll count as we're breathing. Okay, so in 1, 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 3, 4. Out 2, 3, 4. Hold 2, 3, 4. And if you want, you can repeat that a couple times and notice how you feel before and after.
Can I suggest something, right?
Of course.
What got me into meditation, and it's not sponsored, by the way.
Sponsored by meditation.
Medito, what did it for me?
Medito?
Yeah.
Or Medita? All right. Okay. It's an app, right?
Yes. And I don't know all of it, but I was willing to and able to just go bam, immerse myself in it, and did me wonders. It helps. And like even now, like always getting stuck up on the breaths, but as soon as I take that breath, I'm in the moment. It's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And breathing is an excellent tool for us to be present. It's such an important part of yoga and in meditation because when you focus on something that is as automatic as our breath, it it really does force you to be more present in the moment you're in right now. Like we take our breath for granted, but when we start to really be aware of it, we become aware of so much more in our lives. Moments last longer when you start to be present in them and really understand them. So let's use our breath as a tool for experiencing the world in a more beautiful way. Also, I love your hair. I love that it's standing up like that. Looks great.
I find that when you're taking the breath as well, you can't help but smell it as well.
Yeah.
So it's like when you see a meal, how we eat, right? Some people go by the eyes first.
Mm-hmm.
There's the smell, and then taste, and then the hearing.
Oh, for like textures, like a crunch.
Yeah.
I didn't even think about that, but that's actually a really good point.
I'm pretty sure there's one more, but yeah.
Touch, I guess, like the feel of it in your mouth.
That's the one, right? So, a lot of the meals around here that I've had, I've just went, bang,
Yeah.
found it. Sometimes I'll cheat and I'll just see something I like pineapple,
Yeah.
and whoopsie. Dan called my bluff the other day. Almost got him. Yeah.
So like you've got this practice of mindful eating.
Yeah.
And so like when you do that, how do you feel like you experience a meal differently?
Oh man, tastes like freedom. It's just so like coffee, right?
Mm-hmm.
Coffee and tea. I'd have to wait for it to cool down, right?
Yeah.
It's good for you. But now I'm more hungrier in that, and I just go, bang. It's hot as shit, but I can't feel that, if it makes sense. And
Yeah.
so good. Another thing, right, is like the girls at my work, God bless them, you listen to what they're going to eat. Like, say, I'm going to have an avocado and toast, but I'm going to put some like Meredith feta. God bless.
That sounds good.
Some might call them basic bitches, but they know what they want. They're going to go and get it, and it's going to be damn good. Because the guy might overthink it, but they say they don't. But the girl is thinking about it all day. If you feed them,
And she feels she knows what she wants because she's feeling
they
it.
might say they don't, but you just be like, throw it out. Do you
Yeah,
want?
if you've ever had a craving for something, that's kind of like you feeling it. You're feeling the vibes, and you're like, yeah, this is kind of what I want to eat.
So yeah, it's good.
Yeah,
It's good.
I think mindful eating is an excellent practice, and it could be like a whole podcast episode on its own because I think there's a lot of complexity to it, and I think it's an. Well, actually, I have actually had a couple food episodes on the podcast.
I look forward to it.
Yeah, that you'd really love because like food is such an important part of my upbringing and my life, and like mindful.
Another way we connected. Eh?
Yeah, it really is, like through cooking and food, and like mindful eating really has done wonders for me to appreciate food on a whole nother level, and I think can really help people like have healthier relationships with food.
Yeah, it's like growing up, it was just chips, burnt meat, and sweets.
Yeah.
And multigrain sandwiches, right? So, I absolutely despised multigrain at the time. So I'd used to get the sandwich, put it in a closet at home.
Really?
Yeah, the bag was about this high, right?
Yeah.
It's pretty big. That's what she said. And it got so moldy, and I don't know how I got away with it because I put it in the bin. But I remember going,
Oh no.
but, yeah, it was good. But now, sorry, I have the multigrain bread. It's probably one of my favorites, apart from white bread is good. Tip top, God bless. And I'm brought back to that experience with it, and then I'm grateful that now I can eat it. It
That's
doesn't taste
awesome.
like shit.
That's awesome that you've like
Kind of like rewriting the history as well.
Yeah. You're like you're like addressing your traumas.
Yeah.
You're healing these scars that you had, and that's beautiful. I think that's an excellent like analogy for like.
It's like you can't love someone unless you love yourself.
Yeah, and loving yourself is hard. We've talked about this. Who's the most difficult person to love?
It's yourself.
Yourself.
I'm an A student. They've been teaching me. I know how to pour
And you know,
pour a beer now.
Listeners of this podcast will know I've like done an episode on self-love. I think it's one of the hardest things to do, but I think it's one of the most important things to do.
Nice.
I think it's super valuable. Well, Jason, Swan, if you will, we've been talking for a little over an hour, and I'm sure I want to be respectful of your time and
like
listeners'
2:20
time.
lunch, isn't it?
Yeah, and like, you know, it'll be nice to explore, maybe like get a nice shower in. But before we conclude, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to say?
I do. So I'd like to thank whoever's listening. I know my friends are going to listen
Yeah.
back home.
I'm sure
And
they're going to be very proud of you.
Yeah, it's going to be good.
Yeah, I will be.
I hope you can all see my passion
Yeah.
and maybe a side that you couldn't have seen for me. If you want to ask me questions, I'm sure you can. I'm happy to give my Facebook and Instagram.
Yeah.
By the way, I've got 99 followers now.
Nice.
Hey. So cool.
Let's pump those numbers up.
If you want, I'd be grateful. But yeah, I hope you can heal if you're hurting, because I'm happy I healed, and thank you for your time. Thank you.
That's
so
a
much.
beautiful sentiment, Jason, and I thank you so much for joining me. And I thank you, dear listeners, for listening to this conversation. I know it wasn't like the standard conversations that I do, but I think this was a really important one for me.
Thank you.
And it was really quite an excellent conversation. And I had a lot of fun with this. So
I had fun too.
yeah.
I'm gonna go brag about it to everyone.
You
now.
should. The smile on your face like says it all.
Did I not touch that one?
So thank you again for listening, and as always, embrace your chaos with kindness. Thank you again. Take care.